I would like to briefly introduce Inphinity and our product portfolio for Click. In details, I'm going to introduce and describe Infinity Forms. Infinity Forms is an advanced write-back extension for Click with huge international traction and with customers all over the world. So, who is Inphinity? Inphinity is a London-based Click technology partner. It's a spin-off from eMark, Click's master reseller in Central and Eastern Europe, and a solution provider in Australia, with more than 200 Click customers, including several large companies, more than 50 people, and having been in the market since the year 2000. eMark has been Click's partner for more than 10 years. It has 2 Click luminaries, and it has been actively involved in the Click Partner Advisory Council. How exactly can Inphinity help Click customers? We help people multiply the value of their investment into data analytics, and specifically into Click. We develop our products closely with our customers and partners. We focus on good understanding of their needs, and we deliver high value through innovation. With each product, we aim to push the boundaries of data analytics. Besides Infinity Forms, we've also developed Mole Unstructured Data Connector. It extracts text context from various files such as Office files, PDFs, pictures with OCR functionality, emails, messaging platforms. It structures the extracted text and loads it into the Click for further analysis. It opens a whole set of new data analytic opportunities to the users in many areas such as document analysis, sentiment analysis, RPA integration, better predictive analytics, text mining, and many other areas. We also have Infinity.app, which is a software as a service platform for Click solutions where customers can start analyzing in minutes with ready-made solutions and data connectors. Customers can simply upload data with a predefined connector into a ready-made solution and use the full power of Click for analysis. Infinity Forms is a self-service Click write-back extension with a robust backend that has been certified by Click as a trusted extension. This also means that, to our customers and partners, we guarantee the compatibility of Infinity Forms with all new Click versions and releases. But rather than hear us tell you, let's take a look at our customers. Our customers range from the US to the UK to Europe to India, Australia, and APAC. We operate either directly or via an enthusiastic network of Click partners on each continent. There's a wide range of use cases for how Infinity Forms can be used. Here are just some of them. In the NHS, for example, Infinity Forms is being used in combination with Click and Ping for data quality improvement. Click identifies potential human errors in data, Ping alerts the people concerned, then they use Infinity Forms to fix the areas or capture feedback. They also use Infinity Forms to enter real-time data right in the field. Another very common use case is budgeting. Infinity Forms can help integrate this process with Click and make it more collaborative. Very often, Infinity Forms is used to replace Excel spreadsheets for data entry into Click. This can be found everywhere, in sales and marketing, finance, HR, or operations. So, in summary, what are the most common issues that we address with Infinity Forms? Usually, to enter data into Click, you need to either use Excel or some third-party tool. You can also use input fields and variables, but you can't save the data for further use. Also, if you need to communicate and argue with data, you need to go outside Click and send emails or text messages. All of this leads to a high risk of human error, huge manual work in various third-party tools, a slowdown of the decision-making as a result of redundant communication, and as a consequence, users are forced to go outside Click to complete their management cycle. This results in a worse use case experience with Click, lower data literacy across teams, and lower user adoption. Click has traditionally been seen as a data analytics platform. What that actually means is that people view Click as a tool to connect data, visualize it, analyze it, and get insights. Then, they do their actions and share their findings outside Click. With Infinity Forms, we can add a lot of value to the data analytics process as such. But we can further extend this process and help users with actions and communication. So with Infinity Forms, you can shift Click from analytics to interaction. Then you can have a direct impact on actions and people. Infinity Forms help. Well, first of all, you can get completely new data into Click. And via Click, you can enter data into any source system. You can add comments, targets, actions, deadlines, ranges, manual figures, new scenarios, simulation inputs, and create various new records, from simple commenting of profit and loss or tracking of HR assessment meetings to advanced use cases like portfolio stress testing. You can also use Click to get notified on potential errors in data, capture the feedback with Infinity Forms, and cleanse the dataset. Thus, users can always get clean data to work with. Enter data into Click via Infinity Forms. You can either save it into a data source or reload it into the current Click model. This allows you to combine manual data input with the current data in Click. There's a wide range of use cases around this. For example, you may enter targets and forecasts and immediately see the impact in Click. Or update operational inputs and see the impact on bottlenecks in the process. You can also enrich or group data by various categories. Or you may want to correct data in Click or in a database without replacing it and work with the modified figures. All subject to the defined processes and security leads to better insight in Click, and keeping the user in Click as well. With Click and Infinity Forms, we can go beyond with more value. We can use Infinity Forms to track decisions, actions, initiatives, deadlines, responsibilities, budgets, next steps, updates, reviews, priorities. You can track basically everything that's important for getting things done in quality, on time, and on budget. In combination with the Unstructured Data Connector, you can convert unstructured data into a structured form, edit it, and perhaps later use for RPA integration. With Infinity Forms, you can also share your comments around the data in Click. You can do it with a built-in commenting capability. From these comments, users can easily trigger filters and selections on the relevant data, and thus, they, within the Click environment, can continue their analysis further. All of this, in summary, is a small example of how Infinity Forms can truly help you shift your Click from analytics to action. It can help you increase the quality of your current data, add new data in a curated way, drive action straight from Click, and share your finding with others, all within Click's secure environment. All of this leads to noticeable benefits. It saves hours of time. It increases data quality. It minimizes human errors in data input. It achieves cost savings and ultimately better performance across the teams. Now that we've looked at what Infinity can do, let's look at some of the key use cases with Infinity Forms. Well, there's truly an infinite amount of them, and they're limited only by your creativity. Here's a list of some of the most common ones, such as manual data inputs, planning, budgeting, forecasting, running various simulations and modeling, capturing feedback, assessment, reviewing, assigning categories, and grouping. Also, project-specific actions like defining tasks, responsibilities, deadlines, commenting, sharing, and collaborating. Many use cases are around substituting Excels for data entry or capturing real-time data in the field. Even enabling quick write-back from Click straight into a CRM or an ERP system saves valuable time. Needless to say, all these use cases can be found in any functional area and any industry. And if we even want to go deeper for true business geeks, we've put together a more detailed list of use cases. Don't worry, I'm not going to read them out one by one here. Rather, they can serve as a practical checklist for you. You can use it to discuss with your customers and see if you can help them find more value in Click. Let's chat a bit about what makes Form unique and how we differentiate. First of all, Infinity Forms is seamlessly integrated with Click. It has a variety of visual write-back field types. You can add custom fields in Properties panel, just like with any standard Click table. All settings and administration takes place within Click. There's no third-party console. You can save and update data without having to reload the Quick model. Or you can manually trigger reload, full or partial, to see the results immediately. You can even chat, collaborate, and comment via Infinity Forms. You can also use Infinity Forms to configure alerts created in Quick Alerting. Plus, we have integrations with some other extensions available in the Click ecosystem. But that's not all. We've developed Infinity Forms, especially the back end, with an enterprise in mind and with a high emphasis on security. Even the licensing process in an enterprise environment takes place offline to avoid any potential data leaks. Users can do a simple ad hoc write-back on any topic, anytime they want, using an XML file which is natively supported by Infinity Forms. Or they can use Infinity Forms for really complex use cases and connect to a broad range of databases, including currently used CRM or ERP systems. Infinity Forms supports multi-node installations, Active Directory integration, and even ingestion of Qlik users in groups so that you can utilize the current configuration. We've also enabled an API for developers. This allows a developer to create their own extension or any innovative use case with write-back functionality. Full activity logging is also available so you can track. In line with Qlik's philosophy, Infinity Forms provides a friendly user experience with a robust back-end functionality. This helps our customers achieve fast results. The downloading and installation process is fast, and it's well described in the available documentation. After a quick setup by a Qlik admin, users can start creating their forms tables in a self-service way, just how they're used to in Qlik. We're also constantly developing new Kickstart models and templates that we share with our customers and partners. We have an active and highly responsive support team, eager to help. And last but not least, we think any Qlik customer can use the write-back functionality. So we've priced Infinity Forms to bring excellent value for money, scalable and affordable to any company, large or small. Infinity Forms has been developed with agility and passion. It has been designed for Qlik and fully managed in Qlik. Now, let's take a look at Infinity Forms in real life. So let's jump into the application and see how it actually works. Here you can see a powerful QlikSense application with a very happy end user right there. And the app contains data sources from different areas. So for instance, an internal database or cloud-based storage. Thanks to an automated installer, Forms installation is a very simple process. Once it's done, Forms is available between extensions within your QlikSense app. So you can very simply add it to QlikSense applications that are currently being used. Once you have a Forms object there within your application, the happy end user we see can very intuitively add, change, and edit his or her own data directly within the QlikSense application. In the background, this edited data is going to be stored in data storage according to your settings. So, for instance, it can be an XML file. You can use that for ad hoc implementation and use cases. It can be a database. It can also be cloud database storage. This data is not only stored there, it's shown on the front end to all the users who are currently using the QlikSense application. Thanks to how users are managed within QlikSense and within Forms, different users are able to have different permissions. For instance, some users are only able to read data, while other users can edit data. Additionally, permissions can be set so that different users have defined data regions, and they can only edit those specific areas of data in which they have access. All the data that you add or edit by using Forms is completely under your control. So you can use it as, for instance, a new data source and load it back within the model of the application where they were creative. Or you can also load them to a different application and use that data for further analysis. Due to demand from our customers, we've also decided to support multi-node architecture. With our seamless integration and installation process, it doesn't take long before Forms can be supported within a very complex environment. After this, you can decide where you store your data, whether or not you're using Forms to centralize data storage or to use a decentralized data source. When using Forms in a multi-node architecture, the only thing that's needed is the path from the central node. The most important thing to get out of this is that the setup on any environment is purely dependent upon what you need. Now that we've discussed the architecture, the integration, and the users, let's finally get into real-life examples and look at Forms as it happens in front of your very eyes. The first use case we're going to look at is from the insurance industry. And here we've got a use case in order to detect possible fraud. Here in the bottom side, you're able to see the Forms extension. And what this model does is it identifies suspicious combinations of parameters, defining potentially suspicious transactions, and it allows us to review them, comment on them, add our notes, and our actions crucially. So first, perhaps, let's narrow down the search. Here I'm going to go to the search bar, and for example, I'll select these filters. So these claim subcategories have been filtered down so I can explore and review them in more details. Now I have these fields here, and I'm able to see the claim transaction costs. So for instance, this one is extremely huge. So we can play with the various objects and forms, as you can see us using these visual fields. Here I can select the importance field, so I can let everyone know that this is important. And here, let's go ahead, I'm going to add an action. I'm going to tell people to maybe look at it. I'm going to type check it out. And here I've got the responsible person, so I can automatically assign it to somebody. And I think it's important we create a deadline, so I can create the deadline for when we're going to solve it. And then I can increase the severity level, I can set the priority, I can set urgency. And all of these are fields that I've created. And after that, I'm going to save it. When I save it, this saves the data into a database or an XML file, depending on the configuration, which we'll get to a little bit later. Maybe I want to review all the transactions rather than just the one I've looked at so far. And I might want to add a batch update because all the issues I'm noticing are quite similar. So for instance, I can select all. I have the red flag on all of them. Here, let's say, I'll just copy the action since it applies to every item within this field. And then I can extend the responsibilities, what I want from people, save it, and then it's within the database. The beauty of Click is that it's fully customizable with forms. What happens if I want to add a field or perhaps remove a field that doesn't actually make sense for my current use case? Well, we know within Click, I can go to Duplicate. And here within the duplicate mode, I'm able to edit. So I can click that, and here's the forms table. And on the right-hand side, as you see, I'm able to make the changes that I want. So briefly describing what you see here is you see the dimension. Here you can define how the data would actually be blended to the current data. It's defined there in dimension. There's the key, which can be a unique key. It can be a simple one. It can be a composed key. Depends on what you want. Here you see the measures. So for example, you can add data from the current Click model, for instance, costs or other parameters. And where the magic happens is down here. Here I click Forms Configuration. And here I can edit all of the fields that I have. It's immediately accessible, intuitive, and very easy to use. I don't have to worry about destroying the table because, as you saw, I'm able to click Duplicate, and now I'm edited my custom sheet. So it maintains the integrity of the data while allowing it to be fully customizable. So for instance, let's say tomorrow I have a meeting with a manager, and the manager is going to be asking me questions such as which of these transactions are strategic, which of these are a strategic risk, let's say. So I can type it here. I'll type in strategic risk. That will create a new field for us. Now I can see immediately the field has been created. And here I can customize how I want that field to be displayed. I can select from a variety of field types. I can have a text field. I can have a number field. I can have whatever type of field I think most accurately displays the data that I want to be visualized. I can use stars, range. There's essentially infinite use cases, even though it's really maybe only 10 or 15. And of course, we're listening to our customers and partners and working on new fields all the time, so it's constantly growing. So I'm going to go ahead and set strategic risk as a stars field. So for instance, I click that, and here you can see each of these fields have slightly different parameters. So I can go to the properties here, and maybe I need only 3 stars. I don't need a 5-star. It's not the most complicated thing to review. So I'll click Done, and immediately it's right there. I can start using it right off the bat. This is a great way of showing you how seamless and quick forms can be customizable and allow you to have better data and a better visualization of the data that you have. And what's happening in the background when I'm editing this data? Well, if I'm writing back to an XML file, it's automatically created within the file and saved there. If I'm writing back to a database, I have to currently select a existing field, and then the data will be saved there. So now let's look at something else. Let's show you how we can modify buttons within forms. This might be important. You might be in a very secure environment where, for instance, you don't want data to be exported to an XML file. Over on the right-hand side, we've got the appearance button that we can tweak. Here there's various options to set it up and control what our users are able to do. As you can see, we can show or hide Recalculate buttons, show or hide the export button. We can show and hide single batch updates. So for instance, we can fully customize what's happening within the environment so that we can adhere to whatever security parameters we have. Now let's just play around with it and make it a very simple table with no buttons. And here, once we select the changes, you simply have save and clear. Now we can set up the reload settings, for instance. It might make sense if we have, let's say, the Recalculate button displayed here. You can also, let's calculate the reload button, or let's set that up in case you want to do a full reload. There, it's so simple, just by clicking, it automatically changes the table. And that allows us or any users to be able to reload the data or reload the table as they need. The table can also react on buttons. So for instance, here you see an option to hide suspicious text. If I click that, you can see right there that the text, which appears a little suspicious, or suspicious transactions, has been hidden. For example, this just shows you how flexible you can set up your tables and with the many different ways you're able to use them and display data that you need. Now, let's take a look and see how we can work with the history of changes, with tracking them, understanding them, and using them. Forms with Inphinity is able to record all the changes that are done by users. So all the changes, all the transactions that a user does will be stored and be able to be reviewed. So for example, let's see, right here we've got the write back option. We've got the table with all the changes that are extracted. We can then look at this and review it. If we go up to the top, we're able to filter the transactions. Now we've got the transactions filtered out right there, and we can start reviewing them, just like we showed you a little bit earlier. So I'll click this transaction here. I'm going to make a couple changes, add a comment. Let's check it out as the comment. Type that out. I'll add the responsibility, the deadline, the severity level, as we've shown you earlier. And then I can come up here and save or recalculate the model. What that means is now the model has been refreshed. And as long as it's refreshed, at the bottom, you can see there's a record that's been added of the changes that we've made. It's associated with the claim ID that we've been working on. And over here on the right, I'm able to see the changes that have been done, who they've been done by. So in this case, it's myself, and the change date. So everything's been recorded instantaneously. This way, we proceed with further changes. Here, let's make another few changes here. We'll add a few comments. We'll assign some responsibilities. Let's set another deadline. And it's great that we can do this individually and really start to manage what our users are responsible for and what we've done within the environment. Let's say perhaps I'll recalculate, and here you'll see there's another change log at the bottom. And once again, we're able to see that the changes are done by myself, what let's say, claim ID they're related to. And this is important for management and ensuring the quality of data. So for instance, let's look at a record we've already changed. Here, the one that we'd set the severity of red to. I'm going to change it to green, keep the responsible person, change the deadline, and I'm going to click Solved. Now I'm going to recalculate the data. And here, if we go to the bottom, boom, there's another record added right there. So we can see the whole history of changes. And this is absolutely crucial because now we're able to see all the changes done within the environment, especially in an enterprise environment. Maintaining data quality and understanding what changes have been made is crucial. With forms, we've shown you how to do this in the most simple and easily manageable way. And this allows us to decide in what ways we want the changes to behave within the write-back tables. So let's move on from insurance to another use case. Let's try budgeting. This is a fantastic use case that some of our current customers are already using. So here we can see some of the user roles and the workflow that we might be having. So for instance, I'm a director and I look like a Jedi. And let's say I want to set some sales targets. Here I'm able to see that I've already set a couple targets. So I have 2 set targets and I have 2 targets that I need to set. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set a couple targets here. Once I've made the changes, I'm going to click Approved, and I'm going to recalculate. Now the data is being saved into the database. It's being reloaded into the Click model. And over here, I'm able to see the targets for all my team members. And I can also see that these targets have been set as read-only because I don't want my team members to be changing their sales targets. So now we can go deeper. As a manager, I can, for instance, go back into the application and I can, let's say, set forecasts. So here I can see different times throughout the year or different periods. And for instance, I can look at the budget. So here I can see the budget. And within here, I can see the editable fields that I can use to help with the forecast. And of course, I have various versions of this that I can use at any time. So if I move after maybe, let's say, finishing the first quarter, here I see the actual figures versus the budget figures. So the actual data is blended with the budget forecast data. And that allows me to do some editing. And just to show you how it works, I'm going to add a couple figures here. See? So now I've got a couple options. I can either click Save or Recalculate. If I click Save, it saves data into a database. You don't see any changes on the chart here because we haven't recalculated anything. This way, I can make various changes and multiple changes within the environment and within the write-back table without having to reload the data. Now, if I want to recalculate, it saves the data, but it also refreshes the data in real time into the chart. So here, I've triggered, let's say, a partial reload or a full reload, depending on my configuration, which, again, I'll get into a little bit later. Looking at the data, you can see that I've budgeted a peak here. So if we go to the next sheet, it might be worth doing a more in-depth analysis and understand what's going on. So I can select just the peak, and I can start looking around. Here, right above the table, you can see this icon. We've just added this with the form's commenting object, and this allows us to click it, and I can enter the comments as I wish. As an example, I'm going to type, "We need to have a look at this." And then I'll capture the selection. This means that when I click Send, the comments get created, and the selection is able to be seen. Now I can even continue the analysis further. So for instance, I can maybe look at a specific product group or even a specific product. I have 2 options for how to see the comments. I can either come back to the chart and click the icon again, and there I see the other comments or all the comments that I need. Or very innovatively, I can come to this object, which is an overview of the comments. For example, here you see the revenue versus budget comparison, which is the name of this chart. The date and time of the last comment I can see. So it's good for me to know that there's something that's been updated that I can see. So I go there, I click Apply Selections, and it refilters the model. So it applies the filters that I had when I created the comment, and now I can continue further analysis and understand the context of the data that's associated with the comments. So now we're going to go into HR. I'll show you a different use case that's applicable basically for every company. Here I can see a chart of the type of HR data that I have. I have different types of parameters that I'm collecting about my employees or my people after meetings. If I click the buttons at the top, I can switch among the various tables so I can get a complete view of the HR overview. So let's make it practical. For example, let's say I'm having a meeting here with John McCarthy. John here is a training specialist. And here, for instance, I can see in this table technical skills. So maybe he's improved a few skills. I can move that over. He's improved his time management skills. Maybe he's adapted a new language. So in each table, I can adjust things in real time as he's been adjusted. And for instance, if I want to take it further instead of analysis but management, I can add some goal here. So for instance, here let's type in improve leadership skills. So if I wanted, even I could add more fields. I could add some more measures, more KPIs. It's fully customizable. I can add other comments. I can give everything I need to John's development as an employee right here within the click table. Over here, I can mark some goals as having been done to not only improve, but monitor progress already. And then if I'm done and I recalculate the model, all the data that I've updated gets blended with the application. And now we're able to see the changes, and we're able to use them for selections. So now, for instance, let's say I'm looking for a developer, and I want to see where I can find them. So for instance, let's say I'm searching for developers with certain language skills. So I can click here on the table, and let's say I'm looking for people who have problem-solving skills, somebody who has, for instance, presentation skills, and certain technical skills. And the beauty of Infinity Forms is that now we're able to combine the new data that we've created right within the application with the original data that was already stored from some other database, maybe XML or something else, and we have a complete picture of what's going on with our employees. You've already seen some great use cases for Infinity Forms. The great thing about it is it's very versatile. It can be used for very simple cases or very complex cases. Now we're going to look at something else, for instance, portfolio stress testing as a use case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select a scenario, and here I can add a new scenario with my Forms object. So for instance, I'm going to pick a base year here. So for instance, let's say 2014. And here I'm going to use and change these parameters. So for instance, I have interest rate here. I can adjust, let's say, the probability of renewals. Here, I can adjust, for example, the groups, the credit ratings, or the credit rating of the groups that I have here. So we can see what happens. Once I save it, I can name the scenario, let's see, something that's applicable to what's going on today. I'll name this the COVID-19 scenario. I'll save, and then I'm going to recalculate so I can see the data. Here it asks me if I want to reload the application. In this way, we've combined forms with native click functionality. This reloads the model. It stores and captures the data from these variables. It captures the data within these databases, and it creates a new portfolio with these modified figures. So here we have a complete analysis. This way we can look at various portfolios and various scenarios. And we can see, as this is scenario version 2, and this allows us to see how healthy the portfolio is. And through this, I can create various scenarios with various parameters, and I can get a good understanding of what risks I'm open to and how it would affect the business. So this is a fantastic complex use case that shows you really the full functionality and flexibility of forms. With Infinity Forms, you can also manage projects. For instance, you can assign responsibilities, set some dates, and for instance, this is an R&D application we have right now. It's being developed with the University Hospitals of Morecambe Bay and the NHS. So for instance, let's jump into it. Let's add a new project. We're working on this project. We'll call it Project ABC. So for instance, we're going to go ahead and set this as a work project. We're going to assign the responsible person. Let's pick Albert Einstein. That should go well. We're going to set the dates. We have different tables here we can play with, and then we're going to recalculate. And now the project is saved. As you can see, the system has already added further rows in case I want to add new projects. Of course, I can delete the project rows if I don't want them, but it's a good intuitive way of keeping projects in a seamless manner being able to be added. And then here you can see that there's certain projects that I can't edit. Those are the ones that have certain statuses assigned, and that's a good way of managing things. Then the ones that don't have the status assigned, obviously you see here I can edit them. You can filter here by project ID, and if you want, there you can add further comments to the projects. There's a free text field right here on the right, and that gives you a broader range of possibilities and capabilities with regards to commenting on projects. If you need probabilities to be set, for instance, probabilities of risks, you can edit even the risks and issues you might encounter, but here you are able to edit them and then you can save them. Here we can also, for instance, see the relevancy of the issue as regards to the specific projects. Now, as this has been a project R&D assignment, which is being developed specifically towards the COVID-19 situation, here we can assign COVID-19 impact to the project. So for instance, this new project that we've created, Project ABC, here I can assign within this field COVID-19 impact. Now, once I can click this button Define, and I can see if the project's been started. This way, you can simply manage projects, basically in any area that you're working. And of course, you can then use the full click functionality to view the situation of the projects, where they are, if they've started, what the deadline might be, monitor what's going on, monitor all the information related to the projects. And you get to do this right and click using forms. Now I'm going to show you how you can add or delete rows within an Infinity Forms table. So for instance, this here is a marketing campaign management app. And this is some important information related to the campaigns. So in order to add a new row or a new campaign, I click this button and immediately I have a new field right there. So now that it's been created, let's call it Campaign Forms Enablement. Here we can take some product. We can set a beginning date, we can set the ending date of the campaign. some KPI. Here I'm going to go ahead and add a goal so that we have something to work towards. I'll pick a few channels through which the marketing campaign will be conducted. And then I'm going to hit Recalculate. What happens? A new row has been added to the table. And here you can see in the graph at the bottom, you can see the click visualizations have been updated with the recent campaign that's been added. So that's very simple for adding campaigns, but what if we want to delete? Very simply, we click the campaign, and then all we have to do is confirm the deletion and hit Recalculate. And once again, at the bottom, you see the visualization is completely updated. So it's seamless, it's fast, and it's easy to integrate all new data and change things in a way that's simple. So now let's take a look at how you can manage Infinity Forms. As we've already mentioned a couple times, Infinity Forms is managed directly within Click. This is great and simple because there's no need for a third-party console or for an admin or user to leave Click. And here the connection of data sources are managed right here within Forms Admin. So let's go into it. So here within the first sheet, you can see basic information about the environment. You can see what kind of license you have, how many users, how many active users are engaged with it. You can see the path to the files, which is crucial for understanding your data. And here you can see the active users with a license. If we go further, you can stroll through a list of various Forms objects. So you have here an overview of what objects are actually available within your installation. And then here is the most important part of the application. This is the table where you link your new Forms tables with the source data. As you can see, it's very simple. You click the plus button, you select what kind of connection you actually want to create within Forms. So for instance, general means you're connecting to the native XML file, which you're going to specify right here. So here you define the name of the Forms instance table. Here you define the XML file location, along with the name of it. Or here you can define an SQL database connector. There you have a little wizard that you can use to connect to the database. So you see, it's very seamless and very simple. Then you just need to save the new settings and update the Forms database, and immediately you can start using them. For managing Forms, we actually use Forms. So the list object right here you can see is a Forms object. You could even call this a Forms-specific object. Here's the developer API that any developer can use to tailor his Forms experience or his write-back experience within their own development. And this object here has the plus button, which allows you to add new rows within the write-back functionality. So now, last but not least, I'm going to show you the Infinity Forms usage from end to end. So now, after, let's say, installation, I can create any new Forms object in any installation very simply and very quickly. So, for example, I have a couple applications that I'm working with. So I'm going to extend this insurance claims application with Forms objects. So come with me, let's go inside. And for example here, I can pick one of my sheets. Looking at this, I see my customer's age analysis. Let's assume I want to add some write-back functionality to this. I'll go to the edit mode. I'll make the table a little bit more visible or easy to read. And now let's find the extensions here up in the top left. So here we see Forms General, and we can paste it right there. Make it a little bit bigger. So now the first step is to define the dimension to which we're going to connect the data. We don't have to in case we're going to create an object that's standalone. but in this case, let's say we would like to add some data to customers. So for instance, let's see customer ID, and let's define customer ID as our unique key. We can make a composite key if you'd like, but for this use case, it's pretty much enough. We might not want the end user to be able to see the customer ID. That's not necessary for them, so we can go ahead and hide them. Now let's go to measures. Let's add some information about our customers. For instance, we can add customer name, and we can also label it as such. That way it'll be easily understandable to everybody within the environment. Now we're looking from the position of a developer or power user. But this is important in order to show what it's like creating an environment or an application for users. So here we can add a couple more measures. For instance, let's say total claim cost. We could add something along with the idea of, let's say, claim duration days. So we have an overview of the customer and how long their claims are taking. We can add a little bit of formatting to the measures. This is simply to make the object more understandable. Now that we've created the measures, we can go further into form configurations. Here, this is where we start to add our fields. As this is a completely new installation and a completely new instance, within the admin console, we have to tell the object how it should behave. We should tell it where it should write back to. So we're going to go back to the administration console, which we saw earlier. And here, we're going to add the object. First thing I have to do is create an instance ID. So let's say insurance writeback. I now have to define the path. To make it as simple as possible, I'll just use the natively supported XML functionality. So now I'll save the forms object and then update it so that forms can recognize it. Now here I can run a test to make sure that it's been activated. I input the forms ID and I check to make sure things are working correctly. Now that I see they are, I can start adding more of my writeback fields. Here I have a couple use cases. As for instance, let's say a salesperson, I might want to add a couple fields or categories to customers. So let's make a new field of customer category. So this field I could either select as, or let's say use as free text, or make it as a box that I can click. And now I have a couple areas in which I can define this. So for instance, I could enter some categories here. So for instance, A, B, or C, separated with a semicolon. Now that I've added that, and I simply click Done, I can immediately start to categorize the customers. If I click Save, the categories are immediately saved into the XML file, and then I can even go further. Of course, then I can go further. I can filter by claim types or by vehicle groups, and my list reacts to my filters and my categories. So this is one strong use case, adding categories. But then maybe I want to take it further and add another step. So for instance, if I come here, I add the next step field. Let me type that in. And I'll add a little bit more information of what we're going to do with the customer. So now I've added some free text. Now that I can do that, I can add my notes. So I'll type some notes here that can be used. These can be generic, they can be actionable, such as, let's type here, follow-up call next week. And this is useful. But going further, I might want to give my users the opportunity to edit custom categories so they can find areas they can improve upon. So what I'll do is I'll go to the left, and I will add a variable, and I'll add the input for them. And then here, I'll use the variable for them to define the categories. Once I click this object, I am able to create a new variable. And let's call this variable CC for customer category. Now that I've created it, I can close it. I'm then going to connect this object to the variable. And by clicking here, I'm able to use the variable immediately. We're going to make it, let's say, a text box. This is standard click functionality. And we're going to give it some title. So for instance, we'll put in customer category. And here we can even add subtitles, such as I'll type multiple categories separated by, let's say, semicolon. And now we can add a footnote. For an example, enjoy life. Let's make sure our employees are happy. So now the object has been created. It's working. But we have to create this object and connect it to the customer categories. So we're going to go back to the extension on the right. And what we can do is we can add a new one based off the variable we just created, the CC. And then we can add it to the groups. So now users have the option to create their own categories. We'll see here at the bottom, for instance, I can create the category VIP. So now we've gone past the standard ABC rating and we have a new rating. If I want to create multiple categories, that's also possible. So here I can even add another category. For instance, let's say pending. Another great use case would be correcting data within the model that wasn't entered correctly. So for example, let's check customer gender. We can add the field here. Here we have customer gender, as you see. And now let's go to this form configuration. Let's create a new field. Gender corrected, in case some data was incorrectly input. We can decide what type of visualization we want. It could be a select box, it could be free text, but a text box might not be ideal because it involves a lot of typing. The easier thing would be to connect the list from a field. So here we can go deeper, and we can set customer gender as a field we already have. And we can then use the standard click functionality to transform the data. So now I have a new field of gender corrected, and now I've connected the field to the data in the former field. And now I can see the values, and I have the ability to change them and edit them. So this gives me everything I need to do. I can now update things like claim duration, total costs, the reasons. I have full control over the data. So I hope this has given you a great overview of some of the use cases within Infinity Forms. But the big question is, what's next? At Infinity, we strongly believe that Infinity Forms can help you multiply the value of your data analytics. It's our job to let you know that these are possibilities. So where should you start? Feel free to go back and review the slide, Multiply the Value of Your Click Investment. These show you some of the most common use cases that we have. You can use them for yourself, or you can even show them to your customers to give them an idea of what exists within the realm of the possible. You are more than welcome to put your hands on Infinity Forms. Feel free to log into our demo environment or add Infinity Forms to your apps within ClickSense Business Cloud. Additionally, you can download Infinity Forms for offline use, and you can ask for an NFR license. Don't hesitate to ask for enablement or support. We're eager to help our customers. And most importantly, please share your feedback. For us, that is the greatest gift you can give us, because that's how we improve. And with this, you're good to go. Help your customers multiply the value of Click with Infinity Forms. And if you have a project or a customer that you think would benefit from Infinity Forms, don't hesitate to let us know. We're happy to work together. Thank you very much for listening.